My name's Dr. Tracy Paino. I am the Dean of the College of Ministry at North Central University. Recently, I've read the book by popular pastor Rob Bell, Love Wins. And as a result, I have some questions. I'm not the only one with questions. It stirred quite a lot of discussion. A lot of people are talking about it on the internet. They're talking about it in their churches and their homes. People have a lot of questions by the book. I think Rob Bell has done quite a good job of stirring the controversy and making it part of our culture. In fact, a recent Time magazine cover story was on this very book and on the very issues that Rob Bell raises. So he raises some good questions. Ultimately, the number one question that he asked is, does God's love win in the end? Now, along the way, he asked a number of questions to get there, such as, what is the reality and the nature of hell? What is the reality and the nature of God's forgiveness and His justice? What is the nature of our response to God's love? If love wins, how does that impact us? Those are important questions. When Rob Bell asks the question, does love win? One of the questions that he doesn't ask or doesn't answer is, does justice win? Because by God's very nature, not only is He all-loving, but He's also just. And that's the question that goes unanswered as Rob Bell takes us on a journey through his book. Now, as he talks about heaven and hell, the assumption that he presents in the book is that in the end, God's love will continue to pursue each of us to the point where love will win, that nobody can escape God's love. Again, the question is, can anybody escape God's justice? The indication would be that really from a point that some would argue is a universalist mindset, that it doesn't matter what we do and what we decide or how we live this life, in the end, God's love will win, and that Christ's sacrifice on the cross was for everybody. No matter what religion, no matter what ethnicity, no matter how we live this life, Christ's sacrifice was so much that it overrules anything that we can do. And some would argue that's the example of God's gift to us of extravagant free will. We could decide to live our lives and to do anything the way that we want, and God's love in the end will win. Now, I think this actually takes the issue of God's will a step too far. Because if God's gift to us is this extravagant free will, and it doesn't matter what we decide, and we can decide anything, then the question that I raise is, do we have free will at all? Can we choose not to acknowledge God? Can we choose not to love God? Can we choose not to accept God's love for us in the form of His Son, Jesus Christ? If the answer is no, we do not have a choice about that, then we really don't have free will. So I think the important question to ask is not just, does God's love win, but does God's justice win?